Hello and welcome back to the Cinema Wave podcast. It is I, your host today, Vinny Albano. I am joined with Sean Villa.
Oh my God, superhero intro. What's up, everybody?
Yes, and fitting enough, superhero, we are talking about Invincible Season 3. The first 3 episodes dropped this week. I'm super excited to talk about this. Invincible has been one of our favorite shows to talk about on this channel, and unfortunately, we're not joined by Mark and Mikey this week. However, we are going to be covering this weekly, so stay tuned, catch up with us. Mark and Mikey are going to be on the future episodes, but wow, this is off to a really cool start. This is a very anticipated season. You know, comic book readers have been hyping this point of the story up, saying that it's getting real. It's getting real.
Yeah, I guess we should clarify before we get into it that I have not read the comics. Vinny has not read the comics. I don't know any of the upcoming spoilers, so we're probably going to do a little theorizing, I would think.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure the people that have read the comics are going to be like, well, actually, that's not what happens. And I don't know. So we're just going to make predictions as if you've only watched the show. Or at least I'm going to do that. But yeah, man, I'm sharing in the excitement with you. I think this is a way stronger start to a season than season 2 was.
Oh, yeah.
We burst through a lot more. We feel like these plot points are a lot more important. I think the characters are like kind of quickly getting to where they need to be for like what I assume is going to be like a fairly long arc of the show. I think we're maybe rushing into it, which I guess we can get into a little detailed about later. But generally speaking, man, I think, this is a strong 3-episode start. Yeah. There's no mid-season break, so we're just going to go week by week from now.
Thank God.
Yeah, seriously, thank God. That helps a lot. First 3 dropping is a real treat. I mean, just generally very positive about this in synopsis.
I 100% echo your thoughts. Let's start with episode 1.
Yeah.
I think honestly, out of the 3 episodes that have dropped, episode 1 is my least favorite, but still a strong start. And episode 1, we get the Dr. Seismic stuff, which in my opinion, I don't care for, but the build up for that and seeing Mark now, he's beginning to get an edge, and it's really fascinating to watch. Specifically earlier in that episode when the 2 brothers are robbing the Declaration of Independence,
right? And
you see like, Mark is stronger now. Mark has an edge now, and he's a lot angrier than he used to be. And it's brutal. He's just slaughtering Multi-Paul. And I also love Rexplode. I know on the previous episodes, I think Mark wasn't a big fan of Rex. I love Rex.
He's like fine. I don't know. He's okay, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, he occasionally will have like a decent joke. Generally, I kind of feel like whatever about him. But I will echo your point about the fight scene there. I like that they pretty much start the season off immediately. Like, hey, everybody, we know that Mark has been like kind of getting his ass whooped for 2 seasons straight. So like, we're gonna power him up a little bit. Yeah. And they throw us into a fight scene pretty immediately after that, where we kind of see that in action, where these 2 guys that are robbing the Declaration, they just run up and they're just like punching him, and he's literally just like not even phased at all. And I love what they do because we talked about it in some other thing that we were covering, but I'm such a sucker for violence in animation. Like such a big appeal of Invincible for me is just getting to see Superman like rip a guy in half.
Yeah.
It's very like monkey brained of me, but I love it. And Mark is a character who doesn't kill or tries his best not to kill. So I love that they give him an excuse by making Multi-Paul the antagonist that he goes up against, because Multi-Paul is like, well, he's not really killing him. But it certainly looks like he's killing him, because Mark is going in, chopping this guy's head off, ripping this dude in half, and tearing his leg off. We just immediately open up to like a fun, like peak Invincible action scene, which is, for at least on my end, greatly appreciated.
Oh, yeah. And I also think, a lot of people complain about the animation quality in season 2. I think thus far, obviously the art style is the same, and it's not like a huge boost in quality, but like it looks consistently a lot more defined.
Yeah, I think so.
Especially in that fight scene,
I noticed, not to jump ahead, but I noticed in a later scene that I think it's like episode 3 that they're outside sort of at dusk, and it's sunset, and it's like this like very like hazy pink lighting. And I noticed like the shading on the characters particularly stuck out to me. I'm not sure if they've done that frequently, but I noticed it for the first time in these episodes that it seems like they're having a bigger impact on the lighting department, or I guess it's not technically a lighting department, but the team of animators that are doing the lighting and shading. I'm noticing that more, which adds like a bit of a cinematic quality to it.
Oh yeah, 100%. I agree. There's a lot more clever rendering in these 3 episodes. I want to hear your opinion. Let's just jump into Adam, or sorry, Adam, Eve, and Mark. Their relationship now. In the first episode, she gets mad at him.
Yeah, he fumbles horribly.
Yeah,
it's like it's an all-time TV fumble. There was one thing that he shouldn't have said, and he's like, and he immediately blows it. But whatever, because they don't. Luckily, they don't drag it out that long. This has been like a long time coming. I mean, even like my dad who watches this show is like, yeah, he's dating that chick in the pink, right? I'm like, not yet, but like obviously we're gonna get there.
Yeah.
You know? And then finally, like I'm glad that they haven't like, had to draw this out even longer. Like finally we kind of have like their relationship click in place. Yeah, I think in the first episode it's a little like I'm kind of up in the air about it, where it's like, again, it's a will they won't they thing, and like that's fine, but we've been doing it, and Invincible's been on now I think like 4 or 5 years, so 4 or 5 years of a will they won't they is like, all right, like come on, we know where this is going. But we have the whole Doc Seismic fight, which I guess I'm gonna briefly segue to, because I do kind of have an issue with that scene, which is that I think episode 1 builds up Mark, and we were just talking about how good it is in the multi-pole fight. Only to then immediately have him get his ass kicked again in this first episode. It's like we couldn't go one episode of just having Mark be cool. Like I get, like when I was watching it with some of my friends, they were like, oh, well, he's holding back. Like that's the whole thing, is he's not like putting his all into it. But it's like, how many times is he going to get his ass beat before he's like, all right, like let me just handle this. Like, can we find that like balance in Mark where he's able to like knock something out and not just get completely mopped every single time he gets into a fight? Whatever. Yeah. Back to Adam and Mark, I guess. What did you think about that like first starting point in their relationship here?
Yeah, I will say, all right, and maybe I'm not emotionally intelligent to understand, but I will say when she freaked out on him, it kind of caught me off guard. It kind of caught me like, okay, whoa, like it reminded me of season 1 when Amber was like, got mad at him. Yeah. She knew he was invincible. And
well, I feel like that's an example of just poor writing with Amber. I think this scene is a lot more forgivable because I guess this speaks to sort of an issue that I had with like these 3 episodes in general, which is that I think like on paper, everything that happens big picture wise makes sense to me and is good and is compelling stuff. I think when we just break it down like scene by scene, it goes by like a little quick. I think the pacing is like slightly off for me, which isn't like enough to like derail the show in any kind of way. I'm still deeply enjoying it, but I think especially in scenes like that, where it's like Eve has probably 2-3 lines where she's saying like, "Oh, like you're only doing this because of future me or whatever. Like it's not actually your decision." And like on paper, I'm like, yeah, okay, I could see like why you'd be upset about that. But that's sort of all we get of it. And I would have preferred if that was elaborated on just a little bit more. We got like a little more characterization for her, kind of build to that relationship more. Because right now it just kind of ends with like, she says that. She's like, oh yeah, I don't want you to just like go out with me because you think like whatever from the future. We get into all that multiverse nonsense. And then Mark comes by and he's like, no, actually, I apologize for what I said before. She's like, all right, I forgive you. So it's like, all right, well, we didn't need that then, I guess. Like, if you were going to explore it and do something cool with it, then, like, I would have been fine with it. But we kind of just, like, drop it in there because we need an episode where they have to beef again. And then, now we can bring it together at the end. So, whatever. We're past it already. Like, it went by really quick. I just kind of felt like whatever about it. I'm happy they're together, so finally.
Yeah, I will say, I think their chemistry... it makes sense. It's like you said, it's been building since the very beginning. Their chemistry is stronger than Amber.
Definitely.
And Mark, see, episode 2 though is my favorite out of the 3. And we see a lot of Cecil's backstory, which we've never seen before, which was super cool.
Yeah.
And it is so what I love about this episode, what I love about episode 2 is not only the brutality, not only how tense it is. You know, this fight between Mark and Cecil, and then the other superheroes are involved, but the implications of what this fight means for the whole kind of superhero politics, you know. And I love, and what makes this show stand out against other animated TV shows and other superhero shows of the same type genre is the morality. We talked about it a lot in season 2, and we talked about how now Mark is a lot angrier. He has a lot more of an edge to him, but the morality of now we're seeing, you know, Cecil has his reasons for what he's doing, and there is a lot of grayness to him, but now there's a lot of grayness to Mark too, and that and we see the other superheroes, they're siding. It's kind of reminds me of Captain America Civil War in a way.
Yeah, I could see that. I think it's an interesting moral situation that they put them in, because they're both kind of right, which is really like, that's exciting writing for television when you have two characters that are both kind of correct in their own way, that are going up against each other, and it really just becomes about like who you agree with more. Like, as I was watching this, I feel like it's almost as if the episode is trying to prime you to root for Cecil, because it's sort of his episode, where we have his backstory is shown. A lot of it is from his point of view. They put like a real emphasis on those scenes where he's like Mark, like, I'm scared, like I'm scared of you, like you're the threat here, and like you're the instigator. And it also sort of it just phrases it in the context of the structure, where Mark sort of comes in like red hot right off the bat, like not wanting to talk about it. And Cecil's the one that has to be like, hey, like, relax, whatever. So Mark's the aggressor. And that puts it in a situation where I feel like it's trying to kind of push us towards Cecil, which is really interesting. That's like, they're trying to kind of make us sympathize with him to such a degree. Because I love Cecil. I think he's like one of my favorite characters, if not my favorite character. And, you know, it sucks that they're splitting. I maybe wanted a little more time to it, because really all we get is Mark discovers the thing that he gets pissed off about. Mark goes to Cecil and says, I want this to change. Cecil's like, hey, relax. And then it's like over. You know, so that's really fast for a dynamic that's been building for like 2 seasons straight. Maybe I'm kind of neglecting some stuff that happens in late season 2 that, you know, functions more as like direct predecessor to this. It's just that it's been such a, like, probably a year or 2 years, whatever, since the last season. So I'm forgetting some stuff. But yeah, I would have liked maybe a little smidgen more, a couple more scenes, maybe like Mark trying to kind of rationalize with it and then just not being able to. Right now, it feels a little quick. It feels like almost like Cecil's a little too right to me, which I don't think is the intention. I think it's supposed to be more like, well, Mark has like a super valid point. And to me, it kind of seems like he came out, was like, I'm not okay with this. Cecil was like, let's talk about it. And Mark was like, no. Which makes me think like, well, that's like a little irrational. And I don't think that's what the show wanted me to think. I think it meant to be like a little more like, yeah, these two like butting heads and they're both correct. It's like a little too heavy-handed in one direction right now. For me, I'm not sure. What do you think?
Yeah, honestly, I disagree with you, because I feel like it did seem. I feel like both of them, since season 2, we've seen like Cecil and Mark really butting heads, and we talked about. I remember when we were reviewing on season 2. That moment when in season 2, episode 3, when he's fighting the underwater monster and Cecil hears that frequency hurts him, and we were like, oh shit, okay, yeah, that's control. He's gonna use that in soon, and we see that he uses it here, and so I think the groundwork was laid, and I think it was fitting. It just felt like, I just remember in season 2 the scene at the burger restaurant, and Mark like destroys the table. So like he's been getting angrier at Cecil. Cecil's been trying to be a little bit more oppressive on Mark. And I feel like even though he came off irrational, it makes sense.
Yeah, because I get what you're saying. It's like a boiling point. Like,
exactly.
We've reached something where it's like all of these little things have kind of boiled into like this one big thing, and now Mark's just letting like all of it out. And okay, exactly. I can see that. I get where you're coming from with it.
Yeah, I do love, like you said though, like it's the dynamic that they have here with Cecil, and for now, really that whole morality play of, you know, it's so fascinating to watch. It really is. And I love, like I mentioned before, how the other superheroes, and that's why I know people don't like Rex, but like when Rex was like, "Oh, fuck this," and then he
throws the bomb.
Yeah, I was like, "Yo, that's my guy." And constantly through these last 3 episodes, he's like, "Oh, that's the old me. I'm trying to get better."
Yeah, I appreciate that Rex has become like a ride or die for Mark. That makes him a lot more likable, and I like that, you know, where this conflict ends off, everyone's kind of with Mark on it. That's a cool status quo shift because everyone's been kind of like owned by Cecil for most of these seasons or these preceding seasons. Now that we have like Mark kind of doing his own thing and them working independently, I think, like you were talking about the little seed where Cecil detects the noise in the underwater episode.
Yeah.
I think there's a similar seed laid here with Robot, where Robot has always been somebody who's kind of like trying to get into like some kind of goal that we're not aware of as the audience. I always feel like he's kind of like a step ahead of like what we know about him. And they lay this really interesting seed here where I was expecting him, of all people, to stick with Cecil, and he doesn't. And it's initially played off like he's doing it for Monster Girl. Like he's just in love with her. He'll go wherever she goes. But then he has that line with, I think, Black Samson, maybe, where he's like, "Hey, man, like I thought you were going to stay here." And he's like, "Well, Mark is the most powerful hero on the planet. And like I might need someone like that on my side at one point." It's like, what does that mean, dude? What are you up to? You know, so like I love shit like that. I love that they're able to kind of plant these like really innocuous pieces of dialogue, or just like, you know, in the example with Cecil, just like one look from him where it blossoms into something big. And I think like that's an example of it. Like I want to know what the hell's going on with him. And I want to know if he's going to become like the de facto Cecil for this new group that they've established. Let's talk about Oliver, man. Oliver's like the new big character. And I think that this is a great arc that we're on with him. I think he adds a lot to this like central family cast. So I'll let you start on him, and then we can kind of break it down and get into episode 3, which is the big Oliver episode.
Yeah, I've been curious about him because I've heard from comic book fans people hate Oliver as a character. And I can get that, but like I 100% agree with you. I think the dynamic that the character plays within this plot is crazy good. You know, it's so nail biting, and it's so, I feel like this, like what we talked about with the dynamics between the characters and the quote unquote like superhero politics, Oliver is going to add a lot to that. Already, we're having so many battling philosophies, and Oliver just is a wild card in all of that. And it's so interesting to see. I'm curious how Mark is going to handle it now, kind of taking essentially like a pseudo father figure role as his brother. And I almost wish I had more to say, but it's just really fascinating. It's really gripping writing too.
I think not only is he interesting like on his own as a character, but I think that he came in at a point that I think is great in Mark's arc, where something like this has come across him. Because Mark is at a point in the story where he's starting to sort of cave to this like violence that he has, like these violent tendencies and like this urge to kill that he has, to just like get rid of the problem. And like he even threatens Cecil at the end. He's like, "I'll kill you," you know, which is like big for Mark because he's like all about pacifist, right? And now we have this like young kid who's looking up to Mark. And he's getting the lesson from Mark that he would get from Omni-Man, basically. And I think it's sort of positioning Mark where he's his father, and then Oliver is who he was, like and in season 1. And Mark is like starting to think like, man, like I would never be him. I would never be my dad. I would never be my dad. That's like a consistent thing throughout the show. And now it's like, well, dude, like you're kind of turning into that guy, you know? And like now it's not just about you. It's like you might not only like turn yourself into an Omni-Man, but like your little brother might also become like that. You know, like that's some great stuff.
Oh yeah,
like that's really riveting drama, and I love that scene with Oliver after the Mauler twins things. We'll get into that. But there's that scene where he's like, no, like that's, you know, I don't remember what the line that Mark says is, but he's like, you know, like what Dad did is like not okay. And then Oliver's like, well, did you ever like think that like maybe he was right? And then Mark like doesn't reply. Like he like sits with it for a second because he's like, fuck, like yeah, like I'm kind of like not that different. And that's the whole argument he has with Cecil. It connects a lot of things.
Yeah.
Oliver serves as a catalyst to connect like all of these really riveting points around Mark and his violence and his character growth. And Oliver's like his consequence, like made real, which I think is just like a great thing to have in the story.
Yeah, and now that you say that, I love how the episode starts with that no dialogue montage of the couple who they need to make ends meet, so they rely on crime, but they are not morally bad people. Right. They care for human life, and yet it plays a really interesting role on the ideas of superheroes, and if superheroes are really all, if the idea of pure justice and law is the true rightful idea,
right?
Because it's more nuanced, it's more complex than that.
Yeah.
And like you said, Oliver and Mark plays on that idea too of it's, you know, they're looking at the world through very black and white, but it's not like that, and there's a lot of nuance in between. And you have people like that couple where they don't deserve to be just like slaughtered, you know?
Right. And then it becomes about like, where's that line? You know, it's like, well, Mark has to kill this Viltrumite that comes, because if he doesn't kill them, then they're gonna, you know, take over the world.
Yeah.
But then it's like, well, the Mauler twins, right, are gonna nuke something, right? That was like their plan. They want to like set off a bomb. So then Oliver kills them because, oh, well, they were gonna like destroy the world otherwise. It's like, what was I supposed to do? And then like that's like a legit question. Like that's like a real moral question for the characters in the show. Is like Mark is like, he has that whole bit where Oliver says like, well, you killed Angstrom. And he's like, well, he threatened you guys. And he's just like, well, yeah, but like he beat you up, so I did the same thing you did. And Mark's not capable to explain to him why it's different because he's a kid, and Mark isn't there yet. Like he doesn't know why that it was okay.
Yeah.
And that's great.
Oh yeah.
Like to have like a frustration in the main character where like he knows what's right but can't communicate it. Like that sucks, and that's so real and like relatable to have something that you're so passionate about or like feel so strongly but just can't convince someone of it. You know, like that's really endearing. And I think like that makes me really like attached to Mark in a way that like I haven't really before. Like not to say I didn't always really like Mark, I do, but I think now especially like they have like a really strong inner conflict with him. So I just love where they're taking it.
No, I 100% agree. I'm so biased towards when stories do like, especially like a play on morality or philosophy like that. I die for stories like that. I die like I become very biased when it's done right. You know, like this might be a bit of a tangent, but I just finished watching the anime Hunter x Hunter, and the main character is a kid. He's like 12 years old throughout the entire show, and there's a big emphasis by the end of it on, you know, the very naive point of view of the world is black and white, but of looking at the world in black and white, but there's a lot of nuance.
Right.
You know, when you see someone that you view as purely evil, a villain, all of a sudden help a poor little girl, the main character in the show is like, what? He can't even fathom it.
It's like reality breaking.
Yeah. So I'm seeing a little bit of that here too, and I love that. I love that so much.
Yeah, I think he just does it a lot for the status quo. I think he will build into, I mean, hopefully an interesting character, because I've heard similar sentiment that a lot of people that read the comics don't like him. And I don't see like, maybe he becomes someone that's like very unlikable, but at least for now, I think he does really nothing but add to what the show has going in its like main cast. Mauler twins. So Mauler twins, I think, have taken on a lot of screen time in these past 2 seasons. They're way more important than I initially thought they were going to be. I think we see them before we see Mark in the show. I think they're like the first episode, like opening scene.
Yeah,
so
at the White House. These guys
have been around a while. And they come back in season 2 with everything with Angstrom Levy. They are the ones to like repair a robot. I mean, they're basically like, you know, certified side characters at this point. And in Oliver's first interaction with them, he punches his jaw off and then flies through him.
Yeah.
So, all right, bye guys.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that because I'll be honest, man. When I saw Shrink Ray and Duplicate and Angstrom at the end of this third episode, which I think that's who that is, with the camera, the orb in the third episode.
Oh, I didn't even think.
I'm pretty sure it's his voice.
Is that Angstrom?
I think. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I misheard. It sounded like it was Angstrom. But if I'm right, that's a lot of people that died that aren't dead. So that bothered me a little bit, I have to admit, because once a show starts getting into like, oh, well, actually nobody dies territory, sort of deflates the tension for me.
Yeah.
So, we had Rex get shot in the head last season. I thought he was dead. He's not. Shrink Ray gets eaten. She's not dead. Not really an explanation as to how she's alive.
Yeah.
Kate had like a secret copy hidden away. Immortal, I guess it's in the name. But, we have a lot of these characters that are dead and now they're not. So that, I don't love that. I'm hoping that the Muller twins stay dead because it seems like Robert Kirkman really likes these characters and then they keep coming back and the show likes them. If we can keep them dead, then I'll know, like, okay, people can actually die in this show. Like, they can really disappear and, that's for the benefit of the tension, I think. But either way, the scene is great. Does a lot for Oliver. The action's fantastic. The animation is fucking gnarly in that scene. So yeah, I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah, I echo the same sentiment. Well, real quick, yeah, you're right. I just looked up on IMDb. He's credited as a voice credit, Sterling K. Brown, for Angstrom. So
I mean, we could talk about what that means for the plot implication. But yeah, when it ends on that cliffhanger, I thought the whole time that these little orbs that we're seeing were Cecil, or some kind of like tie-in from the last season. I didn't think Angstrom was going to be alive. He turned that guy into paste, man.
Yeah.
And then again, like I liked Angstrom. He's a compelling character. If he's coming back, I'm sure he has something cool planned. He's got like a lot of that like interdimensional stuff going on that opens a cool avenue for potential plots. But like, doesn't that kind of weaken the whole like Mark killed? Like, oh well, actually he didn't. So Mark's actually not killed anybody now. That kind of sucks, I think. Like,
yeah, it does.
Yeah, like that kind of ruins that scene for me. Where he's like, fuck, like I really, like I went there, I became my dad for a minute there, like I caved, and then how that's affected his character till now. Like it's still going on, that conflict that he has from that. So if he sees Angstrom and Angstrom's alive, all right, I guess I never did kill anybody. Like that kind of blows, I think. I don't love that.
It does. That was, I remember when we were reviewing season 2, that was our biggest complaint of how this show, this show effectively, it tries to, it raises up the stakes to completely deplete them. And I love the show. I really do. We've been praising it. It's nail biting tension within a superhero show, but then there comes times where then that tension is completely deflated because there's no stakes. Like in season 2, Alan dies and then he just comes back and he's bigger and he's stronger. Okay, right? And it's like, oh, okay, like no one dies in this show, and that's the biggest, I think, complaint.
The show has like a real attachment to the status quo.
Yeah.
It loves the status quo of like the day-to-day superhero thing. So every time that it's trying to build to like this overarching story of the Viltrumite War and everything going on with Mark, I feel like it's giving you all this cool shit. It's like, oh, Mark is way stronger now. But if Mark's way stronger, then like, oh, well, we can't do like fun like side quests with other like supervillains on Earth. So like we can't make him like too powerful, Like I think that if it doesn't start to like kind of go away from that could be a detriment to this show. I think it loves doing the like, oh, this is like a day-to-day superhero show and also it's a big intergalactic war show. We kind of need to like shift to one or the other. I think season 1 and season 2 was so much like street level crime, upcoming superhero, right? Like I think we're at a point now where we can get into like the bigger story of the show and we're still kind of lingering there. Like we had the Doc Seismic episode. It's like Doc Seismic took out every single superhero in the world.
Yeah.
In the world.
Yeah.
And now, like, okay, cool. But if we're establishing that, I don't want to see them beat a Viltrumite at the end of the season. Like if a Viltrumite comes in and now these guys are able to take on a Viltrumite, it's like, what are the power scales going on here now?
Yeah.
So it's like they can't like beat a bug, but like So like they send in Cecil sends in those whatever they're called, the robots.
Yeah.
Cecil sends in the robots. The robots are able to take out everyone who took out all the other superheroes. But then Mark solos like 50 of them. So it's like Mark could take on the people that won the last battle, but not the people that lost that battle.
Yeah.
You know, it's like weird. We're getting into some like weird shit where
yeah.
the show is just kind of writing like, yeah, Mark is this powerful now, but he's going to be this powerful later. And that's like, you know, I don't love that.
Yeah, no, me neither. I don't love it either. It's just I agree with you with the shifting. They need to pivot. Right. It's like you're 1 foot in the door and 1 foot out of the door. So they need to make a status, and hopefully with the killing of the Molar twins, they lay their foot down and they put 2 feet out the door now. And just kill them off for good. Don't bring them back, and then it will be like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah. Stuff's happening.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So, I can only hope. Yeah.
I guess we'll see, man. So we've got 5 episodes left.
We do.
How do you see this season kind of going from here? Because I notably, we got 1 scene of Omni-Man in these first 3 episodes. That's not a lot of Omni-Man, and I love my Omni-Man scenes. So I'm hoping that maybe for episode 4 we get an Omni-Man episode or an Alan episode to kind of break us away from the Invincible plot. Not that it's bad, but like we've got a whole other thing going out there, and the show is not really paying attention to it right now. And I feel like that's like the important stuff, and we're sticking with Doc Seismic. It's like, all right, dude, come on, let's give me some Omni-Man, give me some Alan. But what do you think? How do you think this season's kind of going to progress? Because I feel like we've almost wrapped up the like mini plot in these first 3 episodes.
I think honestly, and this was kind of a flaw of mine for season 2 too, as well, is that Invincible has its structure throughout the season is a little weird, because it will start at like incredible highs, build up to these really interesting plot points. And then by the middle, we're kind of like dwindling into like side quest territory. And then in the end, it just like goes all the way back.
Right.
All of a sudden, we're back in like the highs again. I have a feeling that, I hope not, but I have a feeling it's going to do the same thing. And by the end of the season, the last episode is going to be like Omni-Man and Alan escaping, and they're on their way to Earth.
Yeah, so it's like you think we're gonna have to wait a whole season just to get the payoff for the like Omni-Man's in prison thing?
I think so. Yeah. That's my current theory. I might be a pessimist. I think that's gonna happen. Yeah. It just feels in my gut, and from the structure of season 1 and 2, I think it's gonna go that direction. Also because Kirkman was saying that they're already like season 4 is slated to be kind of released right after this. So
what, like in the next couple months, you mean?
I don't know about the next couple months. Let me check. But I know it's like soon. I know they were working on it like simultaneously.
Oh, right.
So
those animators, man, that's a lot to do.
Oh yeah,
a very short time span. I thank God for this release schedule, because waiting like another 3 years would have sucked. And there's no mid-season break. It seems like they actually listened, like like Amazon kind of listened, which. Shout out Amazon. That's pretty cool of you guys for actually just being like, yeah, okay, like next year it's coming out. Because we're in an era of shows being like 4 years away, or live action shows are 2 years away. Like I love House of the Dragon. House of the Dragon's on every 2 years. Like that sucks, man. I forgot what happens by the time it comes back on.
Yeah.
So I appreciate them doing this. They have got like a crazy work schedule. Shout out those animators and writers and everything.
Oh, 100%. Great job. 100%. And yeah, that's my theory though. I don't really have much else to say.
What about for Mark? Like the Mark Earth story for this season? Because the only thing they really set up is the thing with Titan, where he's with that the guy with the robot jaw who's like, I want my territory or whatever. So I'm sure we'll get into that. Titan's the guy that turns to stone, by the way. I know that's a deep cut name I threw back at
yeah.
But we'll probably get into something with him, which is like side quest shit, like you're talking about. But then I'm thinking, like, typically, so far, the finale of every season has Mark fight some kind of big antagonist. And I don't know who that's going to be yet, unless it's Angstrom again. And I don't know how I feel about it being Angstrom again.
I don't want it to be Angstrom again.
Yeah, but they set him up.
Yeah.
He's got the orbs following him. He's planning something. He had a big villain chair where he was like literally evil laughing.
Yeah.
So on one hand, it's weird if he's not the villain, and on the other hand, I don't really want it to be the villain. But maybe he does something awesome. I don't know. It could be a great plot. Comic book readers, I'm sure you know. Does it suck? Let us know in the comments below. No spoilers.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, like I wish I had more to say about it. I don't know. I think mostly Mark's focus for this season is going to be on trying to control his quote unquote bloodlust and dealing with Oliver.
Yeah.
I think Oliver is going to take, especially with whatever's going on with Titan and the street level people, I think Oliver might come in there and
start killing people.
Yeah.
Hey man, listen. I think if they go that way with Oliver, I think it would be really compelling. I just don't think they're going to do it.
No.
I don't think they're ever going to commit to making Oliver a villain. I think he's going to like eventually come around and be like, Mark, you were right. I was wrong. Whatever. And he'll like have his whole arc. I do think it would be cool if he just went like off the rails and he had like a little second Omni-Man that Mark created. That could be some compelling shit. I hope that I'm wrong and that maybe that does happen or something like that happens, but I don't think so. So we'll see.
All right. So that has been our review of the first 3 episodes of Invincible Season 3. If you liked this review, remember to subscribe, like, comment down below. Tell us your thoughts down below in the comment section. And if you like our content here, we have so much more on the channel. So check that out. We're doing a bunch of animation-related stuff. Sean and I, we just did Common Side Effects, the new show on Adult Swim. That was really good. Check out that review too. First impressions. We're doing so much. Solo Leveling. We got Spider-Man airing. We got Severance. You know, the other guys here at the podcast are covering Severance. Anyhow, there's more content too in our social medias, all down below. Check it out. This has been Vinny Albano.
I've been Sean Villa. Thanks for watching, everybody. You're going to be drowning in content on this channel.
Yes.
You know how many videos we're dropping? It's a crazy amount. We're crazy here at Culture Wave.
Exactly. Okay. I'll see y'all. See y'all very soon.
This is the culture.